In this video series, we have covered how to deploy self-hosted Teams connectors using the default blue-green method. The architecture diagram is shown. Variables scripts, resource groups, and Teams connector API apps were created for each connector, followed by deploying the connectors themselves. As it was the first time that a Teams connector was deployed in the demo environment, the following tasks were completed. CVI app was created. Admin consent granted for the CVI app to integrate to Teams and Microsoft 365. Enabled lobby bypass for CVI. Configured CVI joining instructions for Teams invites. Enabled a test user with CVI. Testing proved the deployment to be working as designed, with trusted and untrusted endpoints able to join Teams meetings via both connectors. In Azure, there were 5 resource groups created in total. The Teams bot resource group relating to the CVI app registration. 2 resource groups for the blue connector, a static and a dynamic group. The static resource group contains resources such as the key vault, event hub, public IP address of the connector, which the FQDN points to, and storage account, which contain the connector logs. The dynamic group is where the virtual machine scale set, or VMSS, resides, along with many other resources necessary for the Teams connector to function properly. The green connector also has 2 resource groups, their contents the same as that of the blue connector. When a connector is upgraded, its dynamic resource group is deleted and rebuilt using the new version. Infinity was configured with details about the Teams tenant and the 2 connectors which were deployed. Call routing rules were configured to route calls to Teams. 2 rules were added which matched the alias used for production Teams CVI calls. Registered endpoints making calls would match the Teams trusted rule, resulting in bypassing the Teams meeting lobby. Unregistered endpoints matching the untrusted rule would be placed in the Teams meeting lobby, requiring them to be admitted by a meeting host. Both rules were routed via the production Teams connector, the blue connector. 2 rules were added which matched the alias used for non-production test Teams CVI calls. Registered endpoints making calls would match the test Teams trusted rule, resulting in bypassing the Teams meeting lobby. Unregistered endpoints matching the untrusted rule would be placed in the Teams meeting lobby, requiring them to be admitted by a meeting host. Both rules were routed via the non-production test Teams connector, the green connector. It's important to look forward into the future and consider what should happen in our deployment when a new version of Teams connector is released. For future upgrades, the connector which is not currently in production is upgraded. In our demonstration, this is the green connector. When upgrading either of the connectors, consult the documentation for the process to follow. You must ensure that the variables script and TLS certificate specific to the connector are used. For example, if you are upgrading the green connector, you must reuse the green variables script and TLS certificate. The public IP of the Teams connector load balancer will not change, but the public IP addresses of the individual VMSS instances will change. Therefore, it is critical to update firewall rules to cater for the updated addresses. It's vital to follow the documentation which is specific to the version you are deploying. Procedures could change between versions, and following an incorrect process will lead to avoidable issues. Let's consider the scenario whereby the non-production test connector, green, has been recently upgraded, and calls are working via the test call routing rules. The next step is to upgrade Infinity to match the new connector software version. Following a successful upgrade, Infinity must be reconfigured to bring the non-production test connector into service. The production Teams connector entry is updated to use the FQDN of the green connector and green event hub. The test Teams connector entry must be updated to use the FQDN of the blue connector and blue event hub. After the changes have been made, ensure that user testing of the Teams CVI solution is completed, making sure that calls matching all call routing scenarios are made. Don't forget to test in-call features such as content sharing in both directions. Following the upgrade, the call routing of the Teams CVI deployment would look as illustrated. The call routing rules would operate as previously described, however, the call targets have changed due to the Teams connector details being updated as part of the upgrade. This concludes the video series on how to deploy version 35 of the Teams connectors, using the default blue-green method.